Time now for Michigan's #1 outdoor radio show, Mike Avery's Outdoor Magazine. Mike Avery has covered the outdoors in Michigan for more than 4 decades, and that tradition continues today. Outdoor Magazine is brought to you by Jay's Sporting Goods, the Yater Insurance Group, Angler Quest Pontoons, The Forward Corporation, Security Credit Union, Offshore Tackle, Hammond Drives and Equipment, Garber Chevrolet, the West Branch Visitors Bureau, Rapid River Knife Works, and by Michigan Brand Meats. Now, here's Mike Avery.
Well, thank you, Ken Hunter, for that introduction, and welcome to another edition of the Outdoor Magazine radio show right here on the Outdoor Magazine radio network on more than 30 radio stations across our great state of Michigan. And as always, so glad to have you along with us as we continue this weekly 3-hour adventure, this celebration, this discussion, talking about the history and tradition of the outdoor lifestyle here in the great state of Michigan. Hunting, fishing, shooting, trapping, wildlife issues, conservation issues, even some wild game cooking. That's how we wrap up each week's show. Been doing this show for a long time. I am blessed to be able to do it. I am blessed to have you listening right now. Thank you for your support. Thank you. Whether you're listening to the broadcast version or the podcast version of the show, I do certainly appreciate it. So what's going on in your world since we last talked? I would like to hear from you, by the way. Send me an email to mike@mikeaveryoutdoors.com. That's mike@mikeaveryoutdoors.com. Let me know what's going on in your world. If you have questions, if you have comments, if you have pictures you want to share, send them to me. Don't send them to me in a social media message. Send them to me in a good old-fashioned email, mike@mikeaveryoutdoors.com. And that's also how you can tell me if you've heard any cicadas buzzing. I've had a lot of reports of cicadas buzzing in the southern part of the state. Now, just this morning here, the central part of the state, mid-Michigan. Let me know when you are hearing them in northern Michigan. It's just something, listen, it's not an earth-shattering quest. It's just something I keep track of. It seems to me that the earlier the cicadas buzz, the earlier we get a frost, but we always hear them about this time of year. And to me, when I hear those cicadas buzz, I'm like, oh, okay, we're starting to look at the end of summertime here. Not yet, but you can feel it starting to come along. So just let me know. Mike@mikeaveryoutdoors.com. Since we've last talked, I have been doing my best to catch up on the fishing. As you know, I got the new Angler Quest a little bit late in the season, so I'm trying to get as much fishing done as I can. Had some pretty good trips lately. The Werfel family was out with me last week. That was a charity trip from our Trinity Monitor Wild Game Dinner and auction that we had back in March. They are a Trinity family, part of our Trinity family. It was a little bumpy as we went out in the morning, though, but we got some fish. Mom and Dad and the 3 kids, we did very well. They were excellent anglers. We had a great trip. Then a few days later, went out with Pastor Kaiser, his wife Kate, and Katie and Luke Wolfile. Now, listen to this. Do you think I go to a German Lutheran church, right? Werfel, Kaiser, Wolfile. But it was also another charity trip for Trinity, the live auction that we had last March. And we really, really got into them. Number 7 flicker minnows at about 2.5 miles an hour. In about 12 feet of water. 12 is the depth that I tried to stay in when I could. I was so busy at the back of the boat that things kind of got out. Sometimes I'd end in 14 feet. Sometimes I was up in 10 feet. I was not in my beloved skinny water that I talk so much about. The skinny water is still holding fish here now in mid-July, but there are so many weeds it makes it almost impossible. I think to go through that skinny water the way I fish with crankbaits, I'd have to put just 4 lines out, and I would stay at the back of the boat just rotating through, clearing weeds. Instead, I went a little farther offshore, found some structure, 12 feet of water, and had 10 lines out. One side of the boat was from 30 feet back to 60 feet back, and the other side of the boat, and My 2 outside boards were 55 back. My 2 inside boards were 45 back. Now, to do that, you got to give them you got to make sure your baits are tuned right and running right, and you got to give them a little more space between the baits, or you're going to have some tangles. And then on the back corners of the Angler Quest, I had spoons off number 30 jet divers. I had them 25 to 35 back, and the bigger fish seemed to come off those spoons on the back corners of the boat. I love the new Angler Quest. It is a beautiful, solid boat. I actually love the 225 motor. I think instead of the 300, I get all the performance I need, and I think I get a little better fuel economy. Keep an ear out for this month's Angler Quest podcast with Mr. Angler Quest Brad Dupuis, as Brad and I spend a good amount of time talking in detail about the new Angler Quest. We also caught a seagull while we were out there. Fortunately, this time, and if you spent much time out there and caught a seagull, you know what I'm talking about. If you let a bait get out of tune, or if it gets weeded up and it floats to the surface, and you see a seagull flying around back there, check your baits, because you probably got one on top and there's a seagull coming at it. I've done this a few times over the years. If you get a seagull that dives and hits your baits and then flies back up, then you've got your hands full, because you've got a seagull rodeo. You've got a seagull out there flying with one of your baits in its mouth, and to reel that thing into the boat and try to get him under control and get the bait out of his mouth and let him go while he's still in the air, still flying, that's an interesting situation. This time, fortunately for us, not the seagull, he stayed on the top of the water, and he got a little waterlogged. And Pastor Kaiser was able to reel him in while he was on the water. I thought he was going to drown. He didn't. Released him, let him go, but it made for an interesting day. We have a new NRC Commissioner, Natural Resources Commissioner. His name is Brandon Fewins, or Fewins, I don't know what it is, Fewins, of Traverse City. He replaces Dan Kildee, who resigned from the Natural Resources Commission. More on that later with Amy Trotter of MUCC. She will have more insight into that than I do. I'm just telling you that we have a new commissioner, and we'll be keeping a close eye to see how that goes. The golf outing, the big second annual Mike Avery Outdoors Charity Golf Outing. This is the last time we will talk on the radio show before that event. Man, have we had sponsors really step up and help support this event, and I can't thank you enough for that. I'm going to post these online too, so I don't forget anybody. But Security Credit Union, Trophies Africa, Craig Plowman, Ross Elliott, Scott Keatsman, Doug Ward, JT Archbold, Richard Burkfield, Sturgeon for Tomorrow, Lumberjack Lodge, Forward Corporation, West Branch Visitors Bureau, Tony Eno, John and Debbie Craves, Uncle Johnny, Aunt Debbie, Gold Bond Building Products, TJ Johnson Forestry, Trinity Monitor Wild Game Dinner Committee. Thank you for that. The Grillo family of Michigan Brand Meats, Huron Sportsman Association, Diebold Insurance, Mike Smith Offshore Account, Pizza Sam's, Gus of Pizza Sam's, Andy Weiss of Truck Trolley, Jay Sporting Goods, Rapid River Knives. Just a few of the companies that have stepped up, and I appreciate that so very much. And a little surprising to me, we do have a couple more openings for golfers. Go to mucc.org/golf. That's mucc.org/golf. And if you want to get involved as a sponsor, we will find room for you. Speaking of Rapid River Knives, I've been talking to Chris Durson of Rapid River. I think we have the knife. Chris showed me via text what I think is the last prototype version. He is engraving the signature on it, and he will ship it off to me today as we are here in the studio. So I will have a chance to have it in my hands. I will show it off to you, and I think we're going to start pre-ordering that knife very, very soon. And once I get it in my hands, I will show it off. That's for sure. Okay, who's coming up on this week's Outdoor Magazine radio show after the break? DNR Fisheries Chief Randy Claramunt. I had hoped to fish with Randy this summer. Doesn't look like it's going to happen, but I will talk with him coming up after the break. Then Dan Ulfig of the Michigan Wildlife Council. In our second hour, Gabe VanWormer talks about handgun hunting, handgun shooting in general, filling crop damage permits with a handgun. Amy Trotter of MUCC, as I said, joins us with an update on the new NRC Commissioner. This week's Ask Avery question, I don't know what direction that's going to take yet. Maybe I'll just keep Amy on for a second segment if she has time. And then in our third hour, a guy I talked with last week on the Offshore Tackle podcast, and I found him so interesting, I wanted to bring him on the radio show. His name is Nick Dode of Real Live Action Charters, realliveactioncharters.com. And I got to be honest, Nick is very patient because on the podcast, I kept calling him Nick Dude. It's spelled D-O-O-D, Nick Dude, and he never corrected me until afterwards. And I thought, well, that, shame on me for doing that. Nick Dode of Real Live Action Charters. Then Steve Wyndham of MUCC with some last-minute details on that aforementioned golf outing. And, of course, we'll wrap it all up with wild game chef extraordinaire Dixie Dave Minar. My name is Mike Avery. This show you're listening to is Outdoor Magazine Radio. My website is MikeAveryOutdoors.com. That's MikeAveryOutdoors.com. And my email address is Mike@MikeAveryOutdoors.com. Please send me an email. Love to hear from you. What's on your mind? What do you like? What you don't like? Send me pictures, questions, comments. Ask Avery questions. Go to Mike@MikeAveryOutdoors.com. Busy show coming up. Looking forward to talking to all of our guests, and thankful and blessed and honored to have you along with us this week right here on Outdoor Magazine. You can hear the Outdoor Magazine show in Alpena on WZTK, that's 105.7 FM. You can hear us in Lansing on WILS, 1320 AM. And north of the bridge, way north, in Iron Mountain, WMIQ, 1450 AM. This segment of Outdoor Magazine is brought to you by the Linwood Beach Marina and Campground. Linwood Beach can be your year-round Saginaw Bay fishing destination and your Mid-Michigan Angler Quest headquarters. For more information, check them out online at linwoodbeachmarina.com, linwoodbeachmarina.com. The fishing right now in front of Linwood Beach Marina is hot. I mean, the Saginaw Bay walleye fishery this summer is holding up very well. We're talking mid-July here. There's still a lot of fish in the inner bay. Maybe that's going to start to change here soon. But that fishery is fantastic. And Linwood Beach Marina, if you're fishing the west side of the bay, Linwood Beach Marina, great people, great facilities, great location. I can't say enough. Oh, it'll also be the site. I can say enough and more. It's also the site of the annual Angler Quest Owners Tournament coming up next weekend as well. LinwoodBeachMarina.com. Speaking of Saginaw Bay, the fishery there, I had the pleasure, I guess it's been a couple of years ago now, to fish with Randy Claramunt out there on the bay on the Angler Quest. Randy is the DNR Fisheries Chief. I had really, really hoped to fish with Randy again this summer, and he was agreeable to that. But I got the Angler Quest kind of late in the season this year, so I don't know if it's going to work. So, Randy, I apologize for that, but at least we get the chance to talk here on the radio show. How are you?
I'm doing great, Mike. Good to hear from you, and we'll get out fishing one of these days. I appreciate it.
we will get out there. I really enjoyed my time with you on the water. Randy, I find you to be a very interesting guy, a soft-spoken guy, but a guy who gets things done, and a guy who has so much experience in our fisheries here in Michigan. When you look across the horizon here today, what do you see? What are areas of concern, and what are you most proud of?
Yeah, I'll start with what I'm most proud of. I mean, I literally had visited with a krill clerk this morning up in northern Lake Michigan area, and really dedicated staff. Those krill clerks are out interviewing anglers, just to kind of get a report of what they saw in the spring fishery. And there is so much to be proud of. It's been a great spring fishery. The weather has been challenging some areas of the state, but a lot of things set up nicely. So across both inland and Great Lakes, I mean, just really good angler participation and success out in the water, which is, and I'll say whether it's inland trout, really good fisheries and opportunities there. But the Great Lakes, I think you said it in your introduction, they're on fire. I mean, they whether it's walleye, the steelhead fishing this spring has been remarkable. It's just been great. Bass, walleye, so a lot of fisheries to be very proud of, and to try to, our staff really want to manage those fisheries and make sure they stay strong and sustainable. And again, our clerks are out there interviewing anglers, getting all the catch reports, and it's very nice to see such positive reports come through, across Michigan, and world-class lake trout fishing in Lake Superior. I've heard that from the clerks. Remarkable bass and walleye opportunities. So it's been fantastic.
Are the good old days of fishing in Michigan, are they right now?
I think you can argue that in a lot of cases, and I'll kind of speak to, we have just shy of 1.2 million anglers in Michigan, and I just like you, I enjoy my time out in the water, so I try to get out there as much as I can, and I see a lot of people from the Midwest states and even further. And this is a destination fishery for them. They come here to Michigan to fish, hundreds of thousands of out-of-state residents, because they know this is world class. And so our fisheries are managed in a way that we can sustain that effort. So seeing 1.2 million anglers in Michigan is a really positive thing. And I would say the good times are definitely right now in a lot of cases in Michigan.
Unlike your friends over in the wildlife division, I have a hard time finding much of a dark cloud on our Michigan fisheries at all right now, except, Randy, maybe for like behind the scenes stuff like funding. That's a concern, right? And there are efforts being done. There are proposals, bills out there that would increase funding, but that's a concern, isn't it?
Absolutely, and I knew this would, we'd probably get here, and I want to start off by saying I empathize with a lot of Michigan anglers that the model for funding that we have is not one that is easy to swallow. The idea that every 10 years or so we're looking at fishing licenses needing to jump up $5, $10, or some other funding crisis that is impacting our ability to actually manage the fisheries. And you can look at either the number of staff, the number of facilities, the number of programs we had over time, and fisheries is really operating on life support. We have outstanding right now in our current facilities over $65 million in just maintenance projects. These are leaky roofs, generators failing at hatcheries, buildings falling apart. So it's a hard thing to see, and it's one of the motivations for me to want to leave my dream job of managing Saginaw Bay and Lake Huron, my home water's grown up, to trying to go to Lansing and tackle this problem. And and I think there are some solutions out there, and there's really good conversations happening, but we are definitely in a situation where if we don't address it, just our capital assets, our buildings and our hatcheries and our infrastructure, they're going to continue to fall apart, let alone the 65 dams that Fish Division owns that are going to fail and fall apart, and they're all average age 60 years old, well past the lifespan of a dam. So, and I can go on. It's a tough story because right now anglers have paid pretty much 100% of the bill. They have funded everything, even though Fish Division and our fisheries does a lot for the quality of life in Michigan beyond just the 1.2 million anglers. You probably heard this statistic, but our fishery generates $3.9 billion of economic activity in Michigan. So this is everything from restaurants to outdoor sales, and you can see it when a fishing tournament comes into town, or there's good walleye fishing in the Detroit River. People swamp to those hotels and those fisheries. It generates billions, and so to manage that fishery on a $30 million budget that hasn't changed for a decade and a half, and we all know where inflation has been, it's a tough reality.
I got to go back here. You said Fisheries is responsible for dams?
Yes, yeah. Believe it or not, the division owns 65 dams, and when you look at these, a lot of people will say, "Well, how did this happen?" Well, we use dams for things like walleye pond management. Even at our Wolf Lake State Fish Hatchery, we have effluent ponds that are in 13 of them, but we have a dam that holds all those ponds so we can settle the nutrients and let them go. That dam at our Wolf Lake facility failed in February. It literally blew out. We had to do an emergency repair. It's a $1 million+ project, but there are also multiple impoundments across the state, and ones that are getting a lot of attention because without our ability to repair these dams, and by the way, when I said the $65 million in assets that we need to repair, that's not including dams. If we were to address all of the maintenance we need to repair every dam that Fisheries owns in the landscape, it would be over $125 million.
Geez, Randy. How do you get up in the morning and keep working on this? Why not just say this is overwhelming? I'm going to find a different job and I'm going to go fish for fun.
Well, because just like you, Mike, I believe in our fishery. I see the value in it. So what I tell our staff is we're going to continue to try to fight for a sustainable funding model that doesn't burden our anglers. The last thing I'd want to do is license people out of the fishery.
Sure.
It doesn't burden our anglers, but it addresses our problems. And, I carry that message when I talk to legislators and lawmakers in Lansing, with policymakers, with the administration. And I think they get sick of me a little bit, Mike. I'm a broken record, but I'm going to keep doing it until we have a solution on the table. And I think a lot of people probably don't have the awareness of just the crisis that Fish Division has been in. But, when you start looking at our services and our ability to even stock fish, and I'll use our inland walleye program as an example. We could have an inland walleye program as strong as Minnesota, Wisconsin, some of these other Midwestern states. But right now it's on a shoestring budget. And we've reduced the number of rearing ponds for walleye by about 60% in the last 15 years. So let that sink in. Like, we're not stocking the walleye we need at the places we need. And it's a program that if we put invested money into it, you and I, we know it'll generate fisheries and it'll generate interest, and people love those walleye opportunities, especially, inland lakes where there's a blow day and you can go to a large inland lake and get into some walleye and other panfish. I mean, it's a great opportunity. And,
the thing about walleye, or as opposed to some other species, you'll feel that walleye, those efforts on walleye within a couple of years. It's not like sturgeon; it takes you generations. Randy, hang tight. I got to take a break. I mean, you and I think, could talk for the next 3 hours about a lot of topics, but I do have to take a break. We're talking with DNR Fisheries Chief Randy Claramunt, Michigan.gov/DNR. When we come back, Randy, I will ask you more on the funding thing. I don't want to get carried away with this, but it's such a big topic. There are a couple of ways of looking at this right now. Restructuring fees in general, hunting and fishing. Also, there's a group out there that wants to just take a look at fishing because they think, and I agree with them, it would be much easier to get a fishing-only increase through. And that one also, by the way, includes addressing my beloved letting Great Lakes trolling anglers use more rods. I don't understand why we're limited on rods at all, but that's a different topic. Anyway, we'll continue our conversation with Randy Claramunt, DNR Fisheries Chief, Michigan.gov/DNR, after the break right here on Outdoor Magazine. You can hear the Outdoor Magazine show in Ludington on News 97, 98, 98.7 WLDN. You can hear us in St. Joe on WSJM 94.9 and north of the bridge in Newberry, WNBY 1450 AM. This segment of Outdoor Magazine brought to you by VersaSkins. Just change your skin for the season you're in. Why buy a bunch of different sets of expensive hunting clothes when you can buy one good quality set and snap on and zip on an outer shell of a different camo pattern if you need big sizes 4, 5, 6X, or if you are a saddle hunter, VersaSkins can help you out. VersaSkins.com, VersaSkins.com, or go to Amazon.com and do a search for VersaSkins brand. Also, VersaSkins owner Paul Perrone will be at the big outdoor weekend, Woods and Water News Outdoor Weekend, coming up in early September. Right now, talking with DNR Fisheries Chief Randy Claramunt. Randy, there is so much good in the world of Michigan fishing today. I have been an observer and a participant of this for so many years, and I think it's as good as it's ever been. So I don't really want to concentrate on the negative, but it's such a big issue, I think I need to follow up on it. Funding for the department. Two schools of thought right now. A bill that would increase fees for hunting and fishing, and then a separate bill that would just be fishing related, which seems to make some sense, but some of the powers that be don't want to fragment this and they want to approach it from a single perspective. Your thoughts on that?
Yeah, and I'm going to preface, my thoughts to say, oftentimes this is a very unpopular topic among, both anglers and hunters, and oftentimes, you're outdoors, man or woman, you participate in both, right? So, but this is a unique time that we have, support from the executive branch and the governor's office, a proposal in the Senate, and with hunting and fishing, and proposed solutions being drafted in the House. So each chamber of state government now sees the need, recognizes it, and especially for fishing, understands that not only do we need to do something about the crisis, but hopefully we can do it right, and this is the last time that we have to have this kind of conversation and go through what is a very painful process, which basically means addressing fees that are flat and structured in statute, unchangeable unless a new law is passed. So, I think that's really positive news. And before I get into any comparing contrast, let me also say, when I said it was a broken record about the need, I've also been a broken record about the solutions, because the solutions are easy, Mike. The solutions are, you have to have a fee structure that's not just static. It's not just fixed for until a new law is passed. That's number one. Number two, you have to direct the funds collected for a fee, like a fishing license, as much as possible back to managing the fishery. People expect that. And when they don't see it, they start to lose trust and faith in government and the agency and the ability to carry it out. So direct those funds for the reason they're being collected. And the last solution, and again, this is an easy concept, but all of these are what's being debated, is Fish Division does a lot of work for the benefit of the people of Michigan that an angler pays for, and they shouldn't be paying for. We manage any kind of natural resources that crisis that would happen, disaster, typically involves water in Michigan, and we have to collect data and help to manage that. We also, anglers help pay for the management of commercial fisheries in Michigan, and things like that. We really need to either have general fund or tax, other taxes collected to be able to manage the benefits of a very diverse and sustainable fishery, but don't do it on the backs of an angler. So if you look at those three solutions, there are components of each of those that are in the different bills, and what's being talked about in the House and the Senate. We're not there yet, but we need bipartisan support on both sides to address those three things. I know you've talked to some of the representatives in the fishing stakeholders about the trolling license, and I'll just say, anytime that the anglers and the stakeholders, the people that are connected most to the fishery, that have the most to lose, when they put an idea on the table, it should be listened to. And I really like the idea of, to address the first issue of, making sure that licenses can change, the needs change. They came up with an idea that I think is brilliant. And the idea is they're not going to be changed automatically, but there'll be a stakeholder group that has input on if a license were to change, not a lawmaker directly, but as the fishery stakeholders. And I have to provide a justification to them what we're going to use the money for and how it's going to go back to the fishery. Ideas like that, I think, will get us to the solution. And I can't speak to other components of hunting and other things except to say, I really believe we have the support out there. We need anglers to keep pushing for that bipartisan support and for solutions that are not only better, but can literally be the last time that we have to deal with a funding crisis facing our fisheries. And so that's really positive we can get there.
Well, Randy, I tell you what, I got to let you go, but twice there in the last minute and a half, you used the term crisis, and that says a lot right there. Our funding for our fisheries in Michigan are in crisis, but let's leave it on a positive note. We're also got some of the best fishing I have ever seen. Michigan anglers are having a great summer, and you and your people are working hard to make that happen. So keep up the good work. I appreciate it. You and I will stay in touch, but good luck on finding the solution for our funding here in Michigan. Randy Claramunt, you have my support. I think you're a good guy, and I would encourage people to keep an eye on this, and I will help them do that. Michigan.gov/DNR, Randy Claramunt, DNR Fisheries Chief, and a really good angler, too. I've seen him on Saginaw Bay in action. You can hear the Outdoor Magazine show in Battle Creek on WBCK 95.3 FM. You can hear us in Port Huron, WPHM 1380 AM, and north of the bridge in Escanaba, WCHT 600 AM 93.5 FM. This segment of Outdoor Magazine is brought to you by Killer Food Plots, Michigan-based family-owned Killer Food Plots. It's going to be time here in the next few weeks or so to get serious about finishing up your food plots, and you might as well work with a company that takes your best interest at heart. Michigan-based, family-owned Killer Food Plots, Rich Krazan. He can come out to your property and do the work, or alternatively, he can sell you the right seed if you want to do the work yourself. The website, killerfoodplots.com, killerfoodplots.com, and I will be talking with Rich next week for another Killer Food Plots podcast, so keep an ear out for that. Right now, though, I want to turn our attention to the Michigan Wildlife Council, a group that I have been in support of since they were formed years ago. When I first heard about this group being formed to promote and protect and defend hunting and fishing and shooting trapping to the non-hunting and fishing and shooting trapping part of our state, I said, I'm all in. Dan Ulfig is one of the new members of that group, one of the newer members of that group, and he's with us now on the Outdoor Magazine phone line. Dan, welcome back. How have you been?
Been great, Mike. Trying to get some air without smoke in it out there, working outside, doing my habitat improvement. It's all good.
It's all good. Habitat improvement. I love to hear about that. The Michigan Wildlife Council is going through a little bit of a change right now, making a little bit of a change in direction. Tell me about that, Dan.
Well, I'm not supposed to leak anything, but it's obvious.
I know how that goes. Tell me the truth here.
we have a new marketing campaign going on with a new vendor, a new contract with a new vendor. A good marketing has serviced us for the last several years, and they've done an excellent job, and they left a great base for the new company to pick up on. It
is time to make a little bit of a change in direction, isn't it?
You're trying to get me to say something. I would go yes. But anyway, yeah, so it was a public bid is what I'm getting at. And our new Fusion 92, our new marketing representative, was the low bid. And safe to say, to answer your question, is there will be changes, and look out for them, and they're going to be exciting. And that's as far as I'm going on that one, Mike.
I know, and I appreciate that, and I understand you can only say so much. But Dan, with your background in the outdoors as a hunter and an angler, and you are involved in other groups as well, I mean, I think you are a very good choice to be on this council. That I think the role of the council is so very important.
That's true, Mike. And the governor appointed me, even though I'm a Republican, because I have some good credentials. You know, I'm a leader in the NDA. I'm in the Hunt Michigan Collaborative Farm Tour, Pheasants Forever Life member, MUCC Life member, and board of directors. By the way, they need all the help they can get. MUCC, please have your people out there consider joining that organization. They're great. I know you know that.
No, I do.
Life member. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of MUCC and Sportsmen Against Hunger. That group needs help as well. And I think the fact, Dan, that you are a sportsman, but you are also willing to get involved and step up. This is something I've been talking about quite a bit lately, is the need for us as hunters and shooters and anglers to not just stay back in the wings anymore and be silent or gripe about things and not do anything. It's time to get involved, isn't it?
It sure is, Mike. I step up. I'm going to Natural Resource Commission meetings. I'm voicing the opinion of your audience, hunters and fishermen. There's been a lot of DNR, a new sport out there, Mike, DNR slamming. And I think it's grandstanding. I think it's people trying to damage some really good people out there. The DNR, I've worked closely with a lot of them. Everyone I know, and I'm sure everyone you know, is solid, upstanding people trying to do the right thing, trying to do the right job. And they're hunters and fishermen, just like us.
So then why, Dan, should we, as hunters and anglers, like you and I and a lot of our audience is, why should we even care what the non-hunters and anglers in Michigan do? Because that's what the Wildlife Council is directed towards. Why do we care what that group thinks about what we do?
Because they vote, Mike, and it's ultimately it's going to come down to that. You know, $1 from as a surcharge on all the base hunting and fishing licenses in Michigan go to fund this campaign. This campaign is to educate the public about the importance of conservation and managing our forests, waters, and wildlife. Now, Mike, a lot of people don't understand exactly what conservation is. It's a multi-syllable word, and it's confusing, even to me. But I looked it up, Mike. Conservation is the careful maintenance and upkeep of a natural resource to prevent it from degrading or disappearing. And that's really what we're trying to do. If we're educating the non-outdoors people, the people that live in urban areas that don't understand what hunting and fishing do, the economic impact that they do, and that's what this ad campaign is all about.
And it is an important ad campaign. Dan Ulfig, I appreciate your time. Member of the Michigan Wildlife Council, the website hereformioutdoors.org, hereformioutdoors.org. The campaign is called Here for Generations. And isn't that what we all want? We want this outdoor lifestyle to be here for generations, right? In my family, it's been around my granddad, my dad, me, now my grandkids, my son, my grandkids, soon to be great-grandkid. And that's what we want, here for generations. And that's why I think the Michigan Wildlife Council is doing an excellent job. And that's why I support them so very much. The website here for mioutdoors.org. Thank you, Dan Ulfig. Appreciate that. We'll be talking again soon. We'll take a break here for the top of the hour. When we come back, we'll switch gears, talk a little handguns, handgun hunting, handgun target shooting, and more with Gabe VanWormer. Plus, Amy Trotter of MUCC talks about the new NRC Commissioner. A lot of initials right there.
Time now for Michigan's #1 outdoor radio show, Mike Avery's Outdoor Magazine. Mike Avery has covered the outdoors in Michigan for more than 4 decades, and that tradition continues today. Outdoor Magazine is brought to you by Jay's Sporting Goods, the Yater Insurance Group, Angler Quest Pontoons, The Forward Corporation, Security Credit Union, Offshore Tackle, Hammond Drives and Equipment, Garber Chevrolet, the West Branch Visitors Bureau, Rapid River Knife Works, and by Michigan Brand Meats. Now, here's Mike Avery.
Indeed, this is the big guy, Mike Avery. Thank you, Ken Hunter, for that introduction, and welcome to hour number 2 of this week's Outdoor Magazine radio show. Right here in the Outdoor Magazine radio network on more than 30 radio stations across this great state of Michigan. And as I say every week, I think the best way to listen to this show, if you can, is on your local radio station, your local AM or FM station. But if you can't, if your local affiliate doesn't carry all 3 hours of the show, or if, God forbid, you live in some part of our state not covered by the broadcast signal, the broadcast footprint, as we say, isn't it nice to know that there's a backup version of the show? There's a podcast. Now, isn't it interesting that I say a podcast is a backup because podcasting is so big these days? Yes, to me, the podcast is just a backup. The main deal is the radio show, but the podcast is a backup, and you can hear that on my website, MikeAveryOutdoors.com, on my Facebook page, and just about every other podcast platform out there. I mean, just about all of them. You can hear the podcast version of the Outdoor Magazine radio show. I even put it out there on YouTube. I do like podcasting, though. And each month I do podcasts for some of my advertising partners, including Offshore Tackle, Killer Food Plots, and Angler Quest Boats. In fact, when we're done here in the studio recording this week's radio show, I will record this month's Angler Quest podcast with Mr. Angler Quest himself, Brad Dupuis. We'll be talking about the new 2025 Angler Quest, my thoughts on running it on Saginaw Bay for the last few weeks, and we'll talk about some upcoming events, so keep an ear out for that. Okay, in the first hour of this week's show, I realized we talked a lot about kind of the business side of the outdoors, funding for fisheries and, promoting through the Michigan Wildlife Council. Let's change gears here. Let's have some fun now. Let's have some fun and talk with a guy who I have much respect for. He is can I just throw this out to the universe? And it might come back to bite me. This guy could be, when I retire as host of the show, this guy could be the next host of the Outdoor Magazine radio show. And I know I just put him on the spot, but it's just a concept, right? Gabe VanWormer, a guy who has been around the outdoor scene here in Michigan for so many years. You know him from Michigan Outdoors. You know him from Fishing 411. And you should know him from his YouTube channel Full Quiver Outdoors. Check out Full Quiver Outdoors on YouTube and check out the videos that Gabe VanWormer has been putting out there. Recently, I have been fascinated with his handgun videos, both handgun hunting, filling crop damage permits here in Michigan, and going out west and doing some competition. Well, he's back home now, and I was finally able to get him slowed down enough to spend a few minutes talking with me here on the Outdoor Magazine radio show. Gabe, welcome back. How are you?
Doing real good, Mike. We're having a lot of fun over here.
You have been having a lot of fun. Let's talk about your Western trip, first of all. I was fascinated by what you guys were doing out there.
Yeah, I got involved with this friend of mine who has been shooting these competitions for years. There's 2 competitions right back to back out in Wyoming, and one of them is more of a hunting competition. The other one is more to stretch the limits of what a handgun will do. The hunting one has 4 different divisions. It has a single shot, a revolver with optics, revolver without optics, and a rimfire division. So I shot 3 out of the 4 of those divisions. And then in the second one, it's just kind of a free-for-all single shot handgun, and you're shooting out to 1,500 yards. And it's very daunting being a mid-Michigan guy going, I can't even see 1,500 yards unless I'm looking down the road or something.
Yeah. Well, I think you just answered my question. I was going to say, why do you have to go out west to do this? But if you're shooting 1,500 yards, I get it. You need some wide open spaces like they have out west.
Oh, it's unbelievable. And, I live in mid-Michigan. I mean, we have no terrain. It's flatter than a pancake here. So, you go out there and the competitions are shooting down into a ravine, shooting up onto a mountainside, and shooting across valleys. And, I mean, it's so pretty just being there, let alone shooting in it. I mean, it's something you just don't see here in Michigan, that's for sure.
You are a gun guy. Well, let me read. You're an outdoor guy. You're a hunting guy. You're a fishing guy. You're a recurve guy. You're a traditional archery guy. You're a straight walled cartridge guy. Now a handgun guy, Gabe. You embrace so many aspects of the outdoors, and I love that so much.
My wife doesn't. That's the problem. She says I'm too many guys. But no, I like anything that's challenging. I like to challenge myself, in handgun hunting. It's one thing to shoot things with a rifle, and to me, handgun hunting was kind of just the next step, kind of like the longbow hunting. I really enjoyed shooting with a compound and everything, but a stick bow just has a little more challenge, and that's kind of how I got into handgun hunting years ago. And this was just kind of the next step in it. I don't really care to shoot, long range animals, although, I feel like I can better now. I'm not going to be trying to shoot a deer at 750 yards, but if I can ring steel at 750 yards, that 200-yard shot sure looks a lot easier. So it's been fun. Been a lot of fun.
What do these handguns look like? I suspect it's not the handgun you would take off your hip or out of your pocket, right? It's a different critter.
They're absolutely not concealable. Let's just say that. Yeah, you're not putting them in a holster. The long range ones, the super long range ones, the specialty pistols, they're built on a bolt action frame or a receiver, like you'd find in any rifle. So you have Remington 700 actions, and then they put a barrel on it that is a pistol length barrel. And when I talk pistol length, I'm not talking carry gun. I'm talking hunting gun. They're in that 12 to 14 inch range. And then it's got a stock on it, and you have center grips, you have rear grips, but by and large, it's a center fire rifle put into a pistol frame, and it's pretty amazing what they'll do.
So, what calibers are we talking, Gabe?
Anything. Really anything that you can think of, all the way from 22s. A friend of mine has a 7mm Psalm. I've seen even bigger than that. It really is whatever is a rifle is, chambered in. You can get a specialty pistol made in that, and then it's just a matter of, do you really want to shoot it or not?
Because of recoil?
Yep.
Because of recoil?
Yeah, absolutely. That's the biggest thing is, you get into those big boomers and you really want to have a heavy gun and a good break on the end of it, and your life insurance in order, that sort of thing,
So what guns were you shooting out where? You took your
Yep.
own guns, which I think you have multiple hunting handguns now, right? Because the first time I saw you do this, actually, Gabe, I think was maybe even a big revolver you were hunting with a few years ago. You have really come a long way since then.
Yeah, yep. I probably started around 99, 2000, shooting revolvers, and up until January of this year, it's been revolvers and rimfire type stuff. I got into, an automatic a little bit, but I really like the big revolvers and the single shot Thompson center guns. But the specialty, the bolt action ones, that's been a real recent thing. And January of this year is when I bought my first one of those. And really, it's been really fun getting to know that. So yes, revolvers, for one competition, and rimfire, and then the single shot for both of the competitions. So
rimfire, I'm thinking 22. Is there another
Yep.
rimfire out there, or is it a 22?
That's what yeah, I'm not sure. There are other rimfires out there, 22 mags and 17s and stuff like that. But no, for this competition, it was 22 long rifle. I don't think anybody used anything else. But yeah, that was a little more simple gun. We had revolvers out there that were shooting, and I was shooting just an automatic Taurus TX22 that you can pick up just about anywhere, and put a red dot on top of it, and so really just about anything would work in the rimfire category. In the revolver category, it takes a little more specialty pistol, and then getting up into the single shot, that's where you can really put some money into a gun, that's for sure.
So how far were you shooting the 22?
The 22 was out to 150, 160 yards. Yep.
And the revolver?
The revolver was about the same. Might have got out. We might have had a target or two that was 180 to maybe. I don't think we got to 200.
How are you shooting 200 yards with a revolver? You must have a big scope on it, right? A big scope on the top of it.
Yeah. So I can shoot it with a 2-power scope. That's kind of the standard, but I put a 2.5 to 7 power on top of mine, so I could zoom in a little bit. It just helps your eyes a little bit at those longer targets. But as you got out further, it was bigger targets, more like the elk-sized vitals. In that maybe 14 by 14 range, or maybe a touch smaller. But So the targets got bigger too, so that helps you out a little bit at the longer ranges.
Hang tight, Gabe. We got to take a break here in the Outdoor Magazine show. We're talking with Gabe VanWormer. You know Gabe. He's been around the outdoor scene here in Michigan for a long, long time. I would encourage you, just do a search for Gabe VanWormer. You'll find him on social media and also his YouTube channel, Full Quiver Outdoors, which is very, very cool, where you can see more of Gabe's outdoor passions. We'll take a break here in the Outdoor Magazine show. When we come back, we'll talk more with Gabe, and then we'll check in with Amy Trotter of MUCC and this week's Ask Avery question coming up in Hour 2 of Outdoor Magazine. You can hear the Outdoor Magazine show in Caro on 2 stations, WKYO 1360 AM and WIDL 92.1 FM. You can hear us in Houghton Lake on the Twister 92.1 WTWS. And you can hear us north of the bridge in the Sioux on WKNW 1400 AM. This segment of Outdoor Magazine brought to you by... What was that sound? I wonder... What was that sound? Let me see if I can hear it again. Oh, yeah, I know what sound that is. That's the sound of my Rapid River knife locking back open. I just pulled it out of my pocket. You know it's there all the time. It's one of several Rapid River knives that I have. I think a good knife is one of the most valuable tools that somebody who loves the outdoors can have. You know, it can be for fun jobs like field dressing, fish or game, or it can be just everyday mundane tasks like opening packages. If you're going to carry a knife, why not have it be a Michigan-based, Michigan-made knife? Rapid River Knives, handmade by craftsmen in Michigan's Upper Peninsula. Check them out online at rapidriverknifeworks.com. That's rapidriverknifeworks.com. Or go to their showroom on US 2 just east of Rapid River and see what I mean and see it in person. By the way, the Mike Avery signature Rapid River knife, I was talking to Chris Durson the other day. I think we have the final prototype done. He is engraving the signature on that. He's going to send it off to me for a final approval, but I think we're good to go, and I should be able to show that to you anytime here now soon. So rapidriverknifeworks.com. That's rapidriverknifeworks.com. See what I did there, Jonathan? Talking now with Gabe VanWormer, a guy who's been around the outdoor scene here in Michigan for a long time. And Gabe, isn't it interesting and wonderful that we have so many Michigan-based outdoor manufacturers?
Oh, it's unbelievable. And not only just Michigan manufacturers, they're some of the best of the manufacturers. You know, we get being in the outdoor industry, we get offered stuff all the time to use, and it seems like a lot of the best are made right here in Michigan. Absolutely.
And I think, you know, it comes from the fact that our outdoor history and tradition is so strong, and we've got so many companies that have so many people who have manufacturing backgrounds, and they combine those two with their passion, with their expertise, and we just come up with great products. And it makes it easier for guys like you and me to make a living in this area, too.
Oh, absolutely. And some absolute legends in the industries, you know, whether it be Fred Bear and Bose and, you know, or the Bruce DeShanos of the world who are building good planer boards. You know, it's unbelievable.
Yeah, and it's nice to be able to make a living in an area that you love, right?
You couldn't ask for anything better. That's definitely I go all over the country hunting and everything, but it is nice to come back here where one day I can be walleye fishing, the next day I can be, you know, shooting deer, and the next day I'll be rabbit hunting or something else. I mean, there's just so much we can do here in the state. I love it.
And I want to talk with you more about this summertime of shooting deer. You've been busy. Help me explore this. I mean, because there is the fall hunting season, and then there is the summertime harvest season. Help me figure this out, Gabe.
Yeah, farmers can get deer management assistance program permits, and so they can, you know, we refer to them as crop damage permits. And, you know, whether it be a farmer that's having a problem with deer in his beans or his corn, or even, you know, I work with some farmers that have orchards, you know, so through the winter time, we also shoot deer because the apple trees, they have a little bud on them all through the winter time, and those deer will come up into the orchards and eat every one of those buds, and they won't get apples the next year. So apples start in January, February, And I had no idea until got a call from a farmer saying, hey, could you help me out? And so it's really a year-round thing just about nowadays. We shoot crop damage deer. We try to help farmers, and I shoot for a number of them. And invariably, you do well for one farmer, and the next farmer down the road is calling you up. So
yeah. Well,
it is a lot of work this time of year, for sure.
That's what I wanted to follow up on. I've had opportunities to do this too, and I'm thinking, I don't want to go out when it's 85 degrees and shoot deer and then try to take care of this animal while it's still so hot out.
Yeah, excellent. Yeah, that's an excellent comment, because that's what I hear from so many people, and we are very, very fortunate to have two different processors in our area. One of them takes DNR donations, so we can just donate our deer, and so they don't go to waste. That's the nice thing, is it's still a ton of work. I mean, you have to gut every one of them and get them out of the field as fast as possible, but literally from several of the farms I'm shooting, it's 3 or 4 miles down the road from those farms. So it works out really, really well, and they've given me a key to the place, so after hours I can come in, and after hours in the summer is, really late. I mean, there's sometimes I'm not getting out of the field until 10:30 or 11 o'clock I'm getting home. So it is a lot of work, but it also provides you a lot of opportunities to practice and test out stuff that I wouldn't normally get to test for the 3 or 4 deer I'm shooting a year, in the actual seasons.
And I know you work with a lot of companies who do rely on you for testing. I mean, that's become part of your niche in the outdoors, I think, Gabe, at least looking at it from the outside.
Yeah, and I didn't look for that or anything, but once you start doing it, you just start getting phone calls. So, yeah, absolutely. Whether it be a scope manufacturer or a bullet manufacturer, or people that are, like John Up with the 41 Great Lakes has, come out with a different cartridge. I mean, there's all sorts of people calling you up and saying, hey, can you shoot a couple deer and tell me what you see? And so it's really a tough job, having to hunt and fish for a living.
I know.
It's awful. Isn't
it's
it,
just terrible. It's absolutely terrible. Yeah, you mentioned the 41 Great Lakes. That's one that I was specifically thinking of. I think you've done more to promote the 41 Great Lakes than anybody in our state.
Well, I get a chance to shoot so much stuff. So I've actually, coming up here shortly, I've got 2 different pistols that I'll be having, be getting here in the next couple of weeks. One will be a Thompson Center in 41 Great Lakes, a Thompson Center Encore. So I'll be starting to shoot some stuff with that. And then I'm also building a specialty pistol that'll be a bolt action 41 Great Lakes. So I'm going to start doing some pistol stuff with that same caliber. Same cartridge.
So the fact that Thompson Center is making a 41 Great Lakes, that says a lot about the acceptance of that.
Yeah, it's and really it's not Thompson Center that's doing it. It's Match Grade Machine and some other places that are building the barrels that will go on at Thompson Center.
Okay.
Yeah,
okay.
It's still kind of a wildcat, but it's really gaining a lot of traction. I mean, there's a lot of people shooting it across mid-Michigan for sure, and out of state.
So if you had to make a choice, and fortunately you don't, but do you like hunting more or you like fishing more?
I would have to say hunting. I love my fishing, and I woke up this morning, it was dead calm, and I was thinking, why didn't I hitch up the boat and hit Saginaw Bay or something this morning? But, I probably bow hunting especially. I mean, that October, early November are, that's just my time of the year. I live for that. But yeah, I would have to say hunting.
And when you add the element of documenting these outdoor adventures like you do so very well, does it turn it from a strictly fun recreational activity? Does it make it work? Does it make you approach these activities differently than you would without that? I'm going to call it a burden, because I've been there, without that burden on your shoulders.
Yeah. There are especially times when, you just don't want to carry that camera and the tripod and everything else you got to carry with it. There are definitely times when you're not wanting to do that, and it becomes a job. But for the most part, I'm enjoying it. That's part of the enjoyment and challenge, is getting that camera on a deer. I mean, if anybody's tried to bow hunt and kill a deer, and then you add the added element of running a camera as well, it's an added challenge that actually is kind of fun for me. You know, it does get burdensome from time to time, but I really enjoy it. It's a lot of fun.
And we've talked about this before, but isn't it interesting that today it's easier than ever for people to document these with GoPros and cell phones and inexpensive cameras? You know, you don't have to lug a big video camera on your shoulder anymore. It's kind of fun, isn't it?
It's unbelievable. I mean, I fly my drones, you know, from time to time, and I'll take a picture from up above, send it to my phone, download it to my phone while the drone's still in the air, and I can send it to somebody. I mean, I can edit stuff on my phone on my way home from a shoot, you know, as long as I'm not driving. It's unbelievable. It's unbelievable what we have nowadays and how easy it is to shoot your own stuff.
Well, with that in mind, we got a couple minutes left. Give me some tips, some advice for people who are interested in this, but they don't know where to start. From Gabe VanWormer of Full Quiver Outdoors on YouTube, how does a person get started?
You know, I'd start with your cell phone. I mean, go out and videotape your kids shooting stuff. I love to document my kids' hunts and everything, and that's stuff that you'll have forever. Start with that. You know, start with grandkids. Start with your kids. You know, start with other friends. You know, beg them to go along with them and sit in the tree stand and just use your phone. I mean, if that's all you have, that's all you need. You know, you can start there from something that simple, or getting a small consumer camera, and there's tons of different manufacturers that make really high quality tree mounts nowadays. There's one right here in Michigan. So we have all sorts of really good opportunities nowadays that make it so much easier than it was back when we started.
What's that? Is that fourth arrow? What's that one you're talking about in Michigan? I'm drawing a mental.
Yeah.
Fourth arrow.
Yep. That's what I said that, and then I started
So you're okay. What?
Fourth arrow or fifth, something like that. But that's actually what I use all the time, and it's pretty sad I can't remember it right this minute.
Well, they know. People know who we're talking about. And you talk about using your phone. Last spring, and I went out with my grandson Trent, and we were trying to get him his first bird, and we were successful at doing that. And I documented that. And Gabe, I used my phone for everything. You know, because a bird's going to be in relatively close, so you don't have to zoom out 100 yards. But it's such a versatile tool we have right here in our pocket, and it just makes it so fun to further enjoy these outdoor experiences and then share them with other people, too. So I think in the first hour, I said the good old days of Michigan fishing are right now, and I'm saying the good old days of documenting your outdoor adventures are right now as well.
Absolutely. It's open to everybody, and everybody's got a cell phone in their hand, so they can get out and do it and share it. That's for sure. Well,
Gabe, I appreciate you sharing your outdoor adventures, especially on your YouTube channel, Full Quiver Outdoors, and on your social media outlets as well. You and I will stay in touch, and I will be following your outdoor adventures and would encourage our audience to do the same.
Sounds great. Thanks for having me, Mike.
All right, Gabe, always a pleasure. Gabe VanWormer, one of the driving forces in the outdoor media here in Michigan today. We'll take a break. When we come back, another driving force in the outdoors, not media so much, although you do see her in the media a lot. Amy Trotter, Executive Director of MUCC, Michigan United Conservation Clubs. We have a new NRC Commissioner, the Natural Resources Commission. We'll talk with her about that and more coming up after the break right here on Outdoor Magazine. You can hear the Outdoor Magazine show in Sheboygan on Big Country Gold WCBY. That's 1240 AM, 100.7 FM. You can hear us in Holland on WHTC, 1450 AM, 99.7 FM. And you can hear us north of the bridge in Marquette, WDMJ, 1320 AM. This segment of Outdoor Magazine is brought to you by the Seaboing Harbor Marina. If you fish the east side of Saginaw Bay, I really think you should check out the Seaboing Harbor Marina. You can find a boat launch, slips, a fish cleaning station, and a bait shop. And listen, the Saginaw Bay walleye fishery right now is on fire. That's not just my words. I'm hearing that from a lot of people. I just talked to a buddy this morning who was out, and he got a quick limit of fish. And he's got like 4 guys in the boat. That's 32 fish. And where he was fishing would be an easy run from the Seaboing Harbor Marina. And it looks like the Saginaw Bay walleye fishery is going to hold up for a while here. So, again, check them out. The website, SeaboingHarborMarina.com. That's SeaboingHarborMarina.com. And you can find them on Facebook as well. All right. You know that I'm a fan of MUCC. I'm a fanboy, okay, for MUCC. Now, Michigan United Conservation Clubs. Not to the point that I agree with everything MUCC stands for or everything MUCC does. But in general, I think they are the strongest voice for conservationists and hunters and anglers here in our state. Amy Trotter is executive director of that group, and she's with us now on the Outdoor Magazine phone line. Amy, welcome back. How are you?
I'm doing great. Thank you.
So we have a new NRC Commissioner, Natural Resources Commissioner. What can you tell us?
Yeah, just on Thursday, Brandon Fewens was appointed. He's out of Traverse City. Most recently worked in rural development for the U.S. Department of Agriculture. But prior to that, and the role that I know him in a little bit more personally, was as the Northern Michigan Regional Manager for U.S. Senator Debbie Stabenow for about 20 years.
Oh. So I remember one recent conversation I had with Justin Tomei, Justin, an MUC staffer, and he said, look, folks, if you have a recommendation for a commissioner, send them to us at MUCC and we'll take a look at it. Did you, MUCC, Amy Trotter, did you have a role in getting this guy appointed?
No, I can't say that we personally did. We did have some other people that we were encouraging to apply. Unfortunately, for various reasons, they weren't able to get their application in, due to personal reasons. So we certainly understand, and we certainly are always open to having those conversations with people that might be of interest. But we did know that, the governor was looking to replace former Congressman Dan Kildee, who's a Democrat. So again, she views that seat as a Democratic seat and wanted to replace it with another Democrat for that seat. And it still remains, again, balanced, no more than 4 from any one political party.
Okay, you answered my question. The NRC, Natural Resources Commission, appointed by the governor, oversees our hunting and fishing regulations. You try to keep a political balance, or it has to be a political balance. So what are your thoughts on Brandon going in? Are we just cautiously optimistic and hope that everything will be good?
Well, I think, we don't have at least anything negative to say.
Right.
So,
Right,
off the top of the, that's a good thing, I guess. I think, and again, in his role with Senator Stabenow, MUCC worked with him on the conservation titles of the Farm Bill, which puts a lot of habitat on the ground on private lands. We worked with him on Brandon Road Lock and Dam and Asian carp funding. We've worked with him on Great Lakes Restoration Initiative funding. So he is very well aware of kind of the big picture issues that are important, for Michigan conservation. I don't yet know, and I'm looking forward to learning more about his engagement specifically in hunting and fishing and trapping and sort of those outdoor heritage issues.
So Becky Humphreys, former DNR director, NRC member, is she now official chair of that group?
Yes, she is.
She is. Okay. All right. Well, good. I think.
And I'll just say maybe another thing to share actually is it's a good thing they did get him appointed. Unfortunately, it was a few hours too late because our July meeting for the Natural Resources Commission did not have a quorum. There were only 3 of the 6 members present. And so if he would have been appointed the day before, we would have had 4 potential commissioners come to the meeting. But unfortunately, we did have 3 absent this month. So there was no quorum and no actions taken at the commission meeting. Filling these vacancies is very important.
Yeah. Does that say something that we only had 3 commissioners show up? I mean, there's a lot at stake here, Amy.
Yeah, I was really disappointed. And, there wasn't a lot on the agenda, and I understand July, summer Michigan is a busy time, but, it is a commitment for those people, wondering kind of what is the commitment. It's beyond just the day of the meeting. But yeah, I mean, these meetings are kind of, the monthly gathering of all the DNR employees and stakeholders that, get together to talk about these issues. And to have 3 commissioners missing was certainly disappointing.
Amy, can you stick around for another segment?
I'd be happy to.
All right, we're talking with Amy Trotter, Executive Director of MUCC, MUCC.org, MUCC.org. By the way, this is the last time we will talk on the radio show before the big Mike Avery Outdoors second annual charity golf outing to benefit MUCC's youth camp. Go to MUCC.org/golf. We might be able to sneak you in as a golfer. We can certainly find a way to bring you in as a sponsor. More on that after the break right here on Outdoor Magazine. You can hear the Outdoor Magazine show in Houghton Lake on 98.5 WUPS. You can hear us in Sandusky on WMIC 660 AM, 95.3 FM. And you can hear us north of the bridge in Manistee on WTIQ 1490 AM, 95.3 FM. The Ask Avery segment is brought to you each week by the good folks at Security Credit Union. Security Credit Union loves to work with outdoorsmen and women, and they can help you with your next outdoor adventure. Check them out online at securitycu.org. That's securitycu.org. And by the way, a big thank you to the folks at the Security Credit Union Foundation for coming on board as a major sponsor of the second annual Mike Avery Outdoors charity golf outing to benefit MUCC's youth camp. And I bring that up now because Amy Trotter is on the line with us now. The Ask Avery segment is usually a way, for you to send me a question you want me to answer, or maybe pass along to somebody in DNR or MUCC. But we got Amy on right now, so it seemed like a good transition here. First of all, Amy, speaking of the golf outing, speaking of Security Credit Union, this is the last radio show before that golf outing to raise funds for MUCC's youth camp. Why is that needed? Why is that necessary?
Well, the next generation of conservationists are being developed today and in programs like our MUCC's Michigan Outdoors Youth Camp. And it's a tremendous program, and I am speaking very personally as a 4-time camp mom. So we love it there. My daughter loves it there. My little one is excited to go next year for the first time. But we teach all the hands-on skills that we can. We get them paddling and fishing and shooting, archery and 22s. The older kids get shotguns and rifles. And we are really also adding in the science and the conservation behind what we do. So they're learning a little bit about the birds and the forests and, the aquatic species as well. So it is really critical at this time when people are so tied into their electronics and sports and everything else to give kids a break and get them unplugged and outdoors.
Okay, so tying it back into the Ask Avery question, the Ask Avery segment. People ask me this all the time, but I'm just going to direct this to you. Where are we at as far as our outdoor heritage here in Michigan? Where do we stand? Are we in a good place? Are we in a place that gives you some trepidation these days?
So we know that Michigan is not immune to sort of the national level loss of hunters and anglers. That's not just a Michigan thing, that's nationally. And that is a little bit about the, just the demographics. The baby boomers are aging out of the, outdoors. And so we're going to continue to experience that. But the thing that I think gives me hope or excitement is that we have not lost a lot of ground. I mean, we've taken some nips around the edges. We have not lost a lot of ground in our outdoor traditions that we still hold dear. So Michigan, among all the states, we haven't lost trapping. We haven't lost predator hunting. We haven't lost those kinds of opportunities that we see kind of sweeping the West and in different states with ballot initiatives and things like that. And that's because I believe that we have a strong Michigan United Conservation Clubs. We have a strong advocate, making sure that, again, we're not taking big bites and we're not losing, these outdoor opportunities in swaths. So, that is important. The best offense is a good defense, right? So I think that's one thing that we have going for us in the state. So we are going to continue to experience loss of people engaged, but we have to unite those people still in it with us, get as many more in as we can, but again, continue to have that defense of our traditions, defense of these opportunities, so we don't, end up like some of those states out west.
Dan Ulfig was on in the first hour of the Michigan Wildlife Council and, of course, a board member for MUCC. And he was talking about the need for members at MUCC, and he said it's actually kind of a critical situation right now. What's going on, Amy?
Yeah, I think, again, maybe we're experiencing some of that loss, too, as people are aging out. But, today's society, there's not as many people that are joining. And we want to make it as easy as possible for you to support what we're doing. So even if you don't have a desire to have a magazine or have a membership card or take advantage of any of our great membership discounts that we offer, it's important to still donate and support us because we are a nonprofit organization, and that's, that is our livelihood. That's why we're having fundraisers. That's why we're, asking for money all the time. It's not to, make us personally wealthy. This is my livelihood, of course, but it is the only way nonprofits exist is through the support of members and donors and foundations and corporations. And so, there's no end to that cycle of asking because it is an annual need. But yeah, absolutely. I think we're, experiencing some of that economic and demographic changeover, and we really need to engage today's hunters, anglers, and trappers in MUCC in some way.
MUCC.org, MUCC.org. Amy, always a pleasure. We'll be seeing you very soon. Thank you to the folks at Security Credit Union for making each week's Ask Avery segment possible. And, of course, a big thank you to the Security Credit Union Foundation for stepping up and becoming a major sponsor of the second annual Mike Avery Outdoors Charity Golf Outing to benefit MUCC's Youth Camp. We'll take a break for the top of the hour. Hour number 3 coming up.
Time now for Michigan's #1 outdoor radio show, Mike Avery's Outdoor Magazine. Mike Avery has covered the outdoors in Michigan for more than 4 decades, and that tradition continues today. Outdoor Magazine is brought to you by Jay's Sporting Goods, the Yater Insurance Group, Angler Quest Pontoons, the Forward Corporation, Security Credit Union, Offshore Tackle, Hammond Drives and Equipment, Garber Chevrolet, the West Branch Visitors Bureau, Rapid River Knife Works, and by Michigan Brand Meats. Now, here's Mike Avery.
Indeed, this is Mike Avery. Thank you, Ken Hunter, for that introduction. Welcome to hour number 3 of this week's Outdoor Magazine radio show. Right here on the Outdoor Magazine radio network on more than 30 radio stations across this great state of Michigan, and so glad to have you along with us. Something I've been doing every week for a long time. I plan to continue doing this for a long time. I absolutely love it. It's not physically demanding. It's not like I'm working on asphalt or on a roof or something. It's physically very easy. As long as my mental faculties allow and the good Lord continues to bless things, I will continue on talking here at this microphone every week for probably 3 hours about the history and tradition of the great outdoors here in the great state of Michigan. People say, Avery, how do you decide what to talk about and who to talk with? And I think that's an excellent question. A lot of it is just following the seasons. As a person who likes to hunt and fish, I kind of follow the seasons myself, so I've got that going for me. Then I've got a pretty good, I'm going to use an old-fashioned term here, a pretty good Rolodex. You might not even know what that means, but a pretty good list of contacts that I have established and generated and worked with over the years. And then places that might surprise you. Like, for example, my guest right now, I first learned about and talked with last week on the Offshore Tackle podcast. I did not know Nick Dode at all. In fact, I'll be honest with you, last week when I was talking with him on the Offshore podcast, I kept calling him Nick Dude because his last name is spelled D-O-O-D. And Nick, I have to apologize for that. And you were very gracious in not correcting me, but I promise you I will not call you by the wrong name this week because your name is Nick Dode of Real Live Action Charters, realliveactioncharters.com. And I appreciate you joining me this time around on the Outdoor Magazine radio show. How are you, Nick?
I'm doing great, Mike. Appreciate this opportunity to talk to you again.
Well, listen, I enjoyed our podcast conversation so much that I thought you would be a perfect person to talk with here on the radio show. Now, I have been out, and I spend much of my time, much of my effort, say Saginaw Bay. I've been out working on Saginaw Bay walleye lately the past couple of weeks here, big water fish. But I don't want to leave out the folks who do inland fishing, and you're very, very good at this. This is kind of a niche that you've carved out for yourself, isn't it?
Yes, it is. It kind of goes, unnoticed sometimes with, the fisheries we have here in Michigan with the Great Lakes, with Lake Erie and Saginaw Bay, Detroit River, St. Clair River. So it's kind of nice to be able to fish some of the inland waters we have in Michigan, as we have an abundance of Great Lakes to fish for walleye.
Hey, Nick, are you on a speaker or Bluetooth or something? I know last time we talked it was very clear, and I can tell you're using something else. Can you transfer over, switch over for us?
Yes, I can do that.
I appreciate that.
How's that?
It's a little bit better. I appreciate that. So, Nick, tell me about you. Some of these questions we asked you before on the podcast, but tell me about your history, your background. How did you get involved in this?
At a very young age, I just fell in love with the fishing. I used to bluegill fish off my grandfather's dock, and I'd go to my grandparents as much as I could just to get out and fish. I'd take their little paddle boat out and fish for bluegills and bass. Unfortunately, I didn't have any walleyes in the lake at that time. I kind of got introduced to walleyes later on in life. In my high school years, we would camp up at Hardy Dam, just north of Grand Rapids, and we'd fish for walleyes up there with a bullet weight and a half a crawler and just kind of drag bottom. So, and then I, participated in college athletics at Ferris State.
Go Dogs! Go Dogs!
Yep, until I got injured and really got back into fishing, really piqued my interest on different ways to catch walleye. My dad kind of showed me the bullet weight, half a crawler thing, and my uncle made the mistake of taking me to Lake Erie one time and showed me the planer board thing, and I just kind of fell in love with all the different things that I could do with having that many lines out. There's a lot of trial and error for sure, but now I've been a charter captain for the last 10 years. This is my 10th year. My business is doing well, thankfully, and I appreciate all my customers. And I just like to be on the water and have people experience some of the things that I experience on the water each and every day. And hopefully they learn something when they're out there on the water with me, and they can take away a good experience that they can share with others, and that will make them want to go fishing more and introduce it to younger kids.
Well, and I'm sure they do learn every time they're on the water with you. You spent some time tournament fishing too, didn't you?
Yes, I used to fish the Michigan Walleye Tour back in the early 2000s, and then I also fished a few Master Walleye Circuit tournaments. So,
what's that whole experience like, fishing tournaments?
Tournaments is a lot different than being a guide and taking people out fishing. Tournaments is a little more stressful. You get told when you got to go out and when you have to come in to weigh your best 5 fish in most tournament circuits. So it's you're looking for 5 really good fish versus numbers of fish that you're looking for when you're doing guiding and all that.
And I swear, I know this isn't true, but I feel like every day there's a tournament. It's a blow day for us weekend warriors, our recreational fishermen. Yet they send you guys out there in the worst conditions. You don't have a choice. I mean, you got to. I feel like you really butt heads with Mother Nature a lot.
Yes, that's very true, and it's very hard on, number one, your body, but it's also hard on your equipment. You got to tighten a lot of screws and fix a lot of things when you're in those kind of seas, and it's not as enjoyable as it is when you're going out.
I have a lot of people say, "Oh, Avery, I really love to fish, and so I'd love to be a tournament fisherman or a charter captain." And I say, be careful what you wish for, because though those two activities are fun and rewarding in their own way, they're not what they look like from the outside, right?
That is very true. There's a lot of work that goes into it, a lot of long days on the water, and the weather can definitely humble you in a lot of ways when you're on the water.
So you do still fish a lot of big water, but you've kind of carved out this niche for the inland lakes. Let's talk more about that, because like I say, I tend to concentrate on big water. How is fishing inland water, inland lakes, different than the big water?
Well, what I'm looking for a lot of times when I'm fishing inland lakes is I'm looking for a lot of the same things I'm looking for with big water, but I'm looking at the bait fish and the forage of the lake. Typically in inland lakes, it's a little bit smaller bait fish that you're going to deal with versus if you go to Lake Erie when you got, big shad and mayflies and a lot of other things. You're not going to have that a lot of times in inland water. Sometimes you will have some of those things, but in most circumstances you're not. So I'm usually downsizing like my crawler harnesses. This time of year, I'm running like a number 3 Indiana or Colorado blade, usually in a natural color, like a gold, silver, or perch color. Walleyes really like to eat perch, so that's probably one of my go-to colors, whether it be on a crawler harness or whether it be on some kind of crankbait that I might be using.
And obviously, on an inland lake, you've got less water to dissect, so that's got to be a factor in your favor, I would think.
Yes, once you can locate, whether it be a good flat, weed edges, some piece of structure that's the fish are relating to, or even bait fish in that water system, that's a good starting point to keep going over and try to target those fish in those areas.
And how are you finding those fish? I mean, traditional sonar, side scan, are you running at speed looking for marks, or what's your program?
Usually before I would even start on a lake, usually I'm trying to find some kind of, like they used to have the fishing hotspots maps. I don't know if they have them anymore. Or I'm looking at a Navionics app or some kind of map of that lake and trying to look at those things. I'm looking for the flats, the weed edges, the structure. And then when I'm on the water and I can locate those things, then I'm, paying attention to my sonar. I might have side imaging on, I might have down imaging on, and then I also have Mega Live 2 that I use.
Boy, you just said something that brought back some memories, those old fishing hotspot maps. Yeah, I haven't seen those in years, but with the electronics we have today, there's almost not a need for it, Nick.
No, there really isn't. So, nowadays you have the app on your phone that will show you, thousands of lakes. So you're at a really good advantage today.
Hang tight, Nick. We got to take a break. We're talking with Nick Dode of Real Live Action Charters. His website is realliveactioncharters.com, realliveactioncharters.com. Nick can take you out on the big water if you want. But if you want to fish a smaller inland lake here in Michigan and learn how to do that, and hey, the advantage of the inland waters is Mother Nature, right? I mean, you can get on the inland water, the inland lakes, on days when you could never get out on the big water. Nick Dode, Real Live Action Charters, realliveactioncharters.com. More after the break right here on Outdoor Magazine. You can hear the Outdoor Magazine show in Manistee on WMLQ 97.7 FM. You can hear us in Traverse City on WTCM 580 AM, and you can hear us in Muskegon on WKBZ 1090 AM. This segment of Outdoor Magazine is brought to you by Reader Landscaping. Reader can take care of your lawn and property because it's your nature and our nurture. Let them create an outdoor getaway in your backyard, or let them maintain your yard and property. In fact, right now, right this minute, as I am in the Outdoor Magazine radio studio, there is a Reader crew at my house pruning the trees around the corner of the house. Now, I could do that. I have the knowledge. I couldn't do it as well as they do. I have the tools, but what I don't have is the time or the desire, at least not right now, right? They brought a crew of 3 guys out there, maybe more. I haven't seen them. Young guys, eager guys. They put up ladders. They go around the house. They trim these trees back. They were getting a little bit unruly, a lot unruly. And so I called over to Reader. I said, "Hey, looking like a jungle here. Can you send a crew over and trim these things up?" They said, "Absolutely." So now they're there today. When I get home today, it will look beautiful. It will look pristine, and I didn't have to do it. That's the best part. I didn't have to do it. They always do a great job. They are conscientious, and they will always stop and say, "Okay, is this what you were looking for?" Absolutely. They've been doing it for 60 years, so they know what they're doing. ReaderLandscaping.com, ReaderLandscaping.com. Talking right now with Nick Dode of Real Live Action Charters, RealLiveActionCharters.com. I talked with Nick just last week on the Offshore Tackle podcast. Thought he was so interesting, I wanted to have him on the radio show as well. So, Nick, I appreciate you giving me some time this week because I know you're busy. It's a busy time of year. I do want to bring in offshore just for a second, though. How did you get hooked up with those guys?
Actually, back in early 2000, I was at the Grand Rapids Fishing Show at DeVos, and I talked to Bruce DeShano and told him how I just really liked his product, and I wanted to be somebody that would help grow, offshore tackle products and be a representative of their company. And that relationship grown and continues to prosper as, they come out with great products. And I love the planer boards because I can adjust them to the settings I want. I can put certain clips on them and rig them how I want. The tattle flags are probably the one of the most important things that I use as a walleye fisherman.
I love offshore products as well. When you and the OR12, to me, the OR12 is the workhorse of walleye trolling. When you are on the inland lakes and you're downsizing your baits, do you run the smaller mini boards or you stick with the standard OR12s?
I usually run the OR12. There are some circumstances where I might use the small planer board, but typically I'm running the OR12. I'll adjust the tattle flag depending on what kind of lure or presentation I'm trying to present to the fish.
And for people who aren't familiar, the tattle flag is a flag that sticks up off the board. It is spring-loaded. So in theory, if you get a fish or a weed even, that flag will dip back a little bit. I find it. I love it for the people on my boat who are not used to reading boards, Nick. They look at that, they go, "Oh, flag's down, board's back, fish on." It makes it very, very visual and very easy.
Yes, absolutely. It's definitely a tool that can save you a lot of headache. I can tell you a little story about that. When I first started using the planer boards, I was on Muskegon Lake and trolling out by the arms of the channel where it leads out into Lake Michigan. And I didn't have the tattle flags at the time. This is like one of my first times fishing out there in Muskegon. And you could only run 2 lines a person. So I was just me and my buddy in my 16.5-foot boat at the time. And we're fishing, and a few hours go by, and I'm like, we haven't got a bite. So we start reeling in our lines, and first line we reel in, we got about a 5-pound walleye.
Oh, jeez.
Next line we reel in, we got like a 6-pound walleye. So out of the 4 lines we had out, we had 3 walleyes on 4 of them, and we were dragging them around, toting them around the channel for who knows how long.
Yeah, you weren't catching fish because you were catching fish.
Yeah. So but we could have caught a lot more if we would have had the tattle flags. And, you know, a lot of times the walleyes will hit that planer board, and it might subtle, you know, pull it back. And if you were looking the other direction, and then the fish just kind of swims with the lure in his mouth and doesn't know he's hooked. If you had the tattle flag, that flag would pull down, and it would stay down because of the pressure of the fish on the on the end of the line.
Yeah, I love them. You mentioned Muskegon Lake. Now, that is an interesting body of water. I can't think of Muskegon Lake without thinking of Mark Martin, because in some ways he really brought that fishery to the public eye. Is that as good a fishery as it used to be?
You know, it's interesting that, you know, we talked about that a little bit last week, and I'll tell you a fresh story from Muskegon. I went out there this past weekend on Saturday evening. We got out there a little after 9 p.m., and we fished till about 2:30 in the morning, and we boated 10 really nice walleye. And we were trolling with boards, and then we were also holding the rod in our hand, and we were running Walleye Nation Creation boogie shads, and we were also running Berkeley Flicker minnows size 9, and we were running a flat from shallow water to deep water, and the fish seemed to be in the 13 to 15 foot range.
Now, holding the rod in your hand, that's old school. That goes back to Mark Martin, when you want to feel every little tick, right? Did it make a difference having the rod in your hand?
Well, the interesting thing about that is, the nice thing about having the rod in your hand is you feel the bite, but you also feel if you get a weed. So the area we were working had some floating weeds, and then it has also some weeds coming up off bottom. So if your lure hits it on a planer board, even though you might have a tattle flag, sometimes it's not going to show a weed that you might pick up on your lure, where if you hold the rod in your hand, you're going to feel that vibration is going to be different.
Man, weeds, floating weeds or weeds coming up from the bottom, those are like the bane of walleye trollers, aren't they?
Yes, absolutely.
So how do you deal with those? Is there anything you can put on your line above your bait to catch those, or is it just a matter of you got to stay at the back of the boat and just keep swapping them out?
Well, there's a couple tricks that I actually use. I'll use an oar 16 red snap from offshore that I might clip on the line like 3 feet above the lure.
Mm-hmm.
Or there's a speed bead that you can put on your line about 3 feet above. And what that will do is it'll at least knock down some of those weeds from getting to your lure. The only thing is, if you're in a super weedy area, it's going to be real difficult no matter what method you use. And good thing for us, the other night, the weeds were tolerable, so they weren't, you know, collecting at huge amounts on your line. But you did need to check them.
Yeah, I like the idea of putting the clip on the line. Does that interfere with the action of the lure, or does that tend to make the fish shy away from your baits at all?
No, I don't believe so. I mean, it still vibrates the same. I kind of experimented with that a little bit. You know, in the daytime, when you let the lure out and you put that snap on, you watch it and see how it reacts, and it doesn't seem to have an effect on how it you know, goes back and forth in the water. So,
going back to inland lake fishing, you mentioned you were on Muskegon Lake after dark. Does the recreational boat traffic during the day, especially on weekends, is that a factor? Do you find night fishing on inland lakes to be more productive?
Certain lakes I do, because of, you know, it might be boat traffic or just the bite seems to be better in the evening for whatever reason. Muskegon right now, a lot of fish have come in from Lake Michigan into the lake, so it's pretty good when you can go out and, you know, middle of July when the surface temps 80 degrees and you're catching, you know, walleyes ranging from 15 to 27, 28 inches.
Wow. In general, do your inland lakes have smaller fish, or might I be surprised by the quality of fish?
Actually, you would be surprised by the quality of fish that you can catch. Another lake that I fish a lot is Hubbard Lake up in just south of Alpena in northern Michigan, and the fish that we caught there last year were just very healthy, good-sized fish. A lot of them were in the mid-20 range. You're talking 22 to 26-inch fish. Those are really nice fish for inland lakes.
Yeah. Well, I got no problem with a fish that size on the big water even.
Yes, absolutely.
So, Nick, what is the timetable or the schedule for inland lake fishing? I would think, midsummer dog days coming up, your fishing's going to start to die. So when, or am I wrong?
Well, I typically fish Hubbard Lake in August because the nice thing about northern Michigan, too, usually in August, your temperatures drop a little more at nighttime, so it cools down to, 60, 50 degrees. And the fish, the interesting thing about Hubbard Lake is it's a really deep lake, and it's clear, it's clean, it's 8,800 acres, and there's a lot of walleyes in the lake, but a lot of times you go that old cliche that walleyes are on the bottom, but a lot of the fish that I catch in Hubbard are actually suspended in the water column looking for food.
So don't necessarily listen to the old cliches.
No, and this is something that I learned when I was fishing Burt Lake back in the late 2000s or early 2000, like 2006, 7-ish. And we were fishing the deep hole in Burt Lake, and we were getting a lot of fish 10 feet down in the 60-foot hole. So, that's pretty good to be able to get keeper walleyes suspended up that high in the water column, and most of the fish that we were catching on our bottom bouncers in the bottom of the lake were small, 6, 7-inch fish.
Well, Nick, listen, I appreciate you being so generous with your time. First on the Offshore Podcast, now again on the Outdoor Magazine radio show. I would encourage people to go to Nick Dode's website. By the way, his charter group is Real Live Action Charters, and his website is realliveactioncharters.com. Realliveactioncharters.com. Nick Dode, appreciate your time. Good fishing to you. We will stay in touch. We'll take a break here in the Outdoor Magazine show. When we come back, Steve Wyndham of MUCC. One last plug for the big second annual Mike Avery Charity Outdoors Golf Outing to benefit MUCC's Youth Camp. You can hear the Outdoor Magazine show in Tawas on WIOS 1480 AM, 106.9 FM, and you can hear us in Saginaw on WSGW AM, 790 AM, and 100.5 FM. I'm in the studios of WSGW right now, here with the young Jonathan Dent. John, doing a great job as always. Appreciate your help so very much. Also appreciate the fact that I have... been allowed to partner with MUCC, MUCC.org, this case /golf. Steve Wyndham of MUCC. I got to be honest with you. Steve is the guy who is actually doing the outing. I'm just promoting it and putting my name on it. And Steve's with us now on the Outdoor Magazine phone line. Steve, it kind of took me by surprise. I'm like, holy cow, this is the last radio show before the big outing. I better get Steve on here to talk about it again.
Yeah, it's coming up quick. I think we're 8 days out now, and we're looking forward to having a really great day at West Branch Country.
I was going to, well, in fact, I started to. During my live stream before the show, I mentioned every sponsor I could think of. I haven't even had time on the radio show. I will put these all in a post, and I will thank everybody. But we've had some wonderful, wonderful support of this event, haven't we, Steve?
Yeah, we've got some really great Michigan brands and even just some local brands that are up there in the area supporting us. Michigan brand, Hunter Sticks. We've got the Todd Johnson Forestry products. We've got Security Credit Union Foundation. A lot of great support. All the sponsors are listed on our website at mucc.org/golf, so you can check out who's supporting us and go support them.
And now we, as folks are hearing this radio show, we're starting to get down to the wire. It looks like we are going to have openings for golfers. So if somebody wants to join us, they don't have to be a scratch golfer. They don't have to have a foursome. If somebody just says, hey, I hear you guys talking about this, I want to support the cause, which is MUCC's youth camp. If they go to mucc.org/golf, they can sign up, Steve.
Yeah, when this show airs, we'll be 5 days out. We're not going to cut registration off until the Wednesday before. So Wednesday the 23rd in the evening, we'll need to try and cut registration just to get it to the course. But we will still be promoting spots, and my number's on the website. If somebody wants to get in even the day before, we can make it work if we don't sell out.
And again, going back to the sponsors, everybody from Security Credit Union Foundation, which came on board for a very big number, to the smaller whole sponsorships. I mean, we would not be able to do this without the support of the people who have been helping us out. And I think a lot of it is the fact they see what you're doing with that youth camp. They say, this is a good cause, and I want to be a part of it.
Yeah, it's great to see the support for helping MUCC educate that next generation of hunter, angler, trapper, recreational shooter. The youth camp, we're going to have over 300 kids this summer. We've only got about 2.5 weeks of camp left, but we've had a great summer so far, and we're looking forward to doing more.
West Branch Country Club, what a great host. When this idea first came up on a Wednesday night live, Kevin Hannes, the course superintendent, says, hey, you can have this at the West Branch Country Club. And I said, sure, why not? And we just kind of went from there. But what a great host, and what great facilities and a wonderful meal they put on for us.
Yeah, we're going to have a stellar year again this year. The course is in great condition. We're going to have some really fun, exciting things on the course that you can, shoot your golf ball out of an AR-15 and putt with a Happy Gilmore putter. So lots of fun ways to support the cause. Come have fun. And again, like you said, that dinner after the round last year was amazing, and it's going to be great again this year.
I like the fact that we're adding some things this year, something to keep things fresh, like the AR-15 golf ball launcher, the big giant inflatable target, the Happy Gilmore putter. I mean, all things just to keep people involved and give people a reason to come out. And last year people came out, they supported us in a very strong way, and it looks like it's going to be even better this year, Steve.
Yeah, we're going to have some awesome raffle items as well. As last week, Wednesday night, we got some great things donated. We'll have some really cool experiences, from gear to bear hunts to taxidermy to fishing charters. We've got lots of great prizes. So while you're supporting the cause, you're going to win some cool stuff too.
An African safari, for crying out loud.
Yeah, and actually I heard from Craig the other day. He said if we need it, he's got 2 on deck for us. So not just one safari, but 2.
It's a twofer. All right, so the event is Friday, July 25th, which is coming, as you're listening to the radio show, it is next Friday at the West Branch Country Club in beautiful West Branch in beautiful Ogemaw County. The website is mucc.org/golf. We got maybe room for a few more golfers, always room for sponsors, great activities there, great food, and great people for a great cause. The MUCC Youth Camp, mucc.org/golf. Steve Wyndham of MUCC, you are the guy who has helped to make this happen. You have done 99% of the work behind the scenes. I appreciate it. I appreciate you, and I appreciate all the work you've done.
Well, we appreciate your partnership and support, Mike, so we are excited to do it with you.
All right, mucc.org/golf, Steve Wyndham of MUCC. It's going to be a great event. Still time to get involved if you want. Love to have you there. We'll take a break here in the Outdoor Magazine Show. When we come back, we're going to wrap it all up with wild game chef extraordinaire Dixie Dave Minar. Now, I was just talking with Dave off air, and he said, look, last week I did a sheephead recipe. He said, I heard a lot about that, and he said, I'd like to do another sheephead recipe. I said, David, the floor is yours, my friend. We caught a big sheephead on Saginaw Bay here this last week, and I'm looking at this thing, and as he's talking to me, because if you've caught a sheephead, you know they like to talk to you. I'm thinking, boy, if Dave was on this boat, Mr. Sheephead, you would not be safe. But Dave wasn't on the boat. The sheephead was safe. He went back into Saginaw Bay, along with a couple of big slimy catfish. Now, look, I know people fish for cats, and I know they're wonderful, and I know they're great targets, and they're certainly hard-fighting fish. But they are not welcome on the angler quest, at least not when we're walleye fishing. What are welcome, nice walleye, big wide shoulders, 22 inches long. That's the kind of fish, or longer, that's the fish we're looking for. All right. Thank you, Steve Wyndham, MUCC.org/golf. We'll take a break, wrap it all up with wild game chef extraordinaire Dixie Dave Minar. Welcome back to Outdoor Magazine. My name is Mike Avery. So glad to have you along with us. I look forward to this show every week. I also look forward to talking with my good friend, wild game chef extraordinaire Dixie Dave Minar. If you have had the pleasure of meeting Dave, you know what I'm talking about. But if not, let me just say that he's just one of the nicest guys you will ever meet. He is just an honest, hardworking Christian man who is just very sincere and extraordinarily generous. He also has a really cool talent for being able to take any fish or wild game and turn it into a meal that you would serve anybody. He's proven that to me over the years, including one time when he walked in here in the radio studio with the Asian carp. Now, I'm not going to say it was the best thing I ever ate, but it was okay. It was pretty good. Now, sheephead, on the other hand, I've heard it can be very, very good. And Dave actually said it's one of his favorite fish to cook up, and he's with us now. David, welcome back. Last week you did a sheephead. It was really popular, and I understand you want to do another one this week.
Right. I had 4 people get in touch with me about the sheephead recipe.
Well, let's do another one then.
All right. Well, we used to do a salmon and fettuccine Alfredo at the restaurant when we were open.
Yeah.
And we're going to do it with sheephead this time. So skin your sheephead, trim away as much of the red meat as you possibly can, and use it in nice, little long strips, maybe an inch or 2 long, or make it into cubes even. So you need about 1 to 1.5 pounds. This is for 4 portions, so you need about 1 pound to 1.5 pounds of boneless fish, medium onion diced fine, 3 to 4 cloves of garlic diced fine, crispy bacon. You want to crumble it up, so you might want to save that bacon grease on the side for a minute here. 2 to 3 ounces of a dry white wine, a quart of half and half, 3/4 of a stick of fresh butter, 1 pound of fettuccine noodles cooked al dente. Set that on the side. And if you want to use fresh basil, by all means, but if not, you can use a 1/2 teaspoon of dried snow peas. I like them, the edible pod peas. It makes it really stand out, too, because of the green. A cup of Parmesan cheese, tablespoon or 2 of parsley, and fresh ground pepper, lots of it. You want to grind the pepper all over the fish and let it set on the side for a while. So, as I said, you want to maybe slice the fish in a julienne, 1 by 3 or 1 by 2, or cut it into cubes. It's whichever is easier. Now, this fish is going to remain more stable instead of breaking up like the salmon or the walleye would in this dish. So, in a large, heavy-bottom saucepan, saute the onions, the garlic, and you put the cooked bacon in after you browned it off, and a little bit of butter for a few minutes, just to break the flavor loose. You don't want to brown it, just enough to set the flavor. And in your large cooking vessel here, you want to add the wine and cook fast by half reduction. Then you want to add the half and half and the butter. When that gets all melted and comes up to a rollicking boil, a rolling boil, not rollicking. Add the cooked pasta, simmer, reduce the heat to a simmer, stir often, add the basil, either the dried or the sprigs, pea pods. You want to stir the bottom quite often. You don't want it to stick, and be careful not to break. You're going to put the fish in at this point and simmer for about 3 to 4 minutes, just until the fish is done. And it doesn't take much because we got boiling liquid all around you. Add some Parmesan to thicken up the sauce and save some to sprinkle on top. Serve your pasta on large platters and make sure everybody gets a good amount of the fish. And you can top with Parmesan cheese and fresh ground pepper, lots of it. It really enhances the flavor to grind pepper into this.
Oh, it sounds excellent. And you said something about the texture of this fish. Is sheephead a meat that, I don't want to say tougher, but it holds together better than some of the others?
That's true. Especially say if you're going to deep fry strips of sheephead after you get it all cleaned up. It's going to stand quite a bit of handling compared to what a walleye would. Walleye would break up a little bit.
Gotcha. Go ahead, Dave.
What?
Are you in the kitchen right now?
I was just going to. No, I'm at home.
Oh, it sounds like you're in the kitchen.
Well,
I can just hear you slaving away in the kitchen right now in my mind.
No, Terry's the one slaving away, cleaning up after breakfast.
All right. Well, tell Terry I said hi, and we'll remind people that we can find you. And I'm going to send this guy a bill. You are cooking at the King's Dish in Standish every Thursday through Saturday?
Yep, that's true. And you just want to make sure that I can't stress enough to remove most of the red meat.
Oh, that's right.
So you have,
yep.
You want to get it down to just the snow white meat. And it's a great fish. People are going to be amazed once they try it.
Yeah, you've stressed this before. If you are going to cook up sheephead, take out that red meat because that's where the strong flavor is, and you're going to have nice, fresh.
Right.
One day, maybe I'll try it, Dave. Maybe I'll try it because I have no doubt. But listen, if I got a bunch of walleye, I'm going to eat that first. Wild game chef extraordinaire Dixie Dave Minar, a big part of the Outdoor Magazine show. I appreciate his involvement in the show. I appreciate your involvement in the show. And what is your role? Hey, if you didn't listen to the broadcast version of the podcast, there'd be no reason for me to do this. My name is Mike Avery. This show is called Outdoor Magazine. My website, MikeAveryOutdoors.com. My email address, Mike@MikeAveryOutdoors.com. Have a great week. We'll talk to you next time right here on Outdoor Magazine.